Hi everyone. Since we've got a test coming up, I thought it might be a good idea just to make a quick video with some tips for doing tests, and it's the top 10 test tips. So I've managed to get 4 T's in there. So first of all, before the test, I'd suggest that you do as many revision questions as you can. This one seems fairly obvious, but it probably makes the biggest difference. Get revision questions off of your teacher, i.e. me, get them out of the textbook. You could even, if you were really keen, go looking on the internet. But try and do as many revision questions as you can. Secondly, when you're revising, I guess you've got limited time, so it's easy enough to say do as many questions as you can. But if you've got limited time, which ones should you do? Well, what I would suggest is, have a look at what your strengths and weaknesses are. Maybe do a few questions to do with your strengths just to check that you can still do those. But then really pick those questions that you don't know how to do. They're the ones that can make the biggest difference when it actually comes to the test. Now, if you can't do those questions that are your weakness, it's really important that you seek help. So go to your teacher, i.e. me, go to other teachers if you want to, go to the internet and have a look. There's many websites that explain lots of different mathematical concepts. Really just try and, go to your textbook. That's the other way of tackling these problems. Seek help early, like as soon as you can't do a question. Seek it often, seek it through any means that you can. And finally, before the test, what I'd suggest that you do, even if you're not allowed to have a sheet of notes, I'd still suggest writing an A4 sheet of notes. I found this really good when I used to do exams at uni. And by the way, I did 41 exams during my university career. I found it really good just to write up an A4 summary sheet. It meant that I looked at the key ideas for the topic, and I really had to boil everything that I'd learnt down to the really key concepts. And often it's those key concepts that make a difference when it actually comes to the test. Okay, so actually on the day of the test, there are a few different things that you can do to make your life easier. First of all, stay calm. This is a bit like telling people in a building that's on fire not to panic. It is easy to say stay calm, but what can we actually do to achieve that? Well, I used to always tell myself when I was going into a test or an exam that, there's nothing more I could do. I'd done my revision, I'd done whatever I could do. The next hour or however long that I had was all mine, and that used to make me feel calm. Other people I know like to have, mascots. Maybe you could look up some breathing techniques or visualization. Whatever technique you can use, try and stay calm. Secondly, be organised. So make sure you've got your notes sheet if you can use it. Make sure you've got a calculator if you can use it. Make sure you've got a working biro. Maybe even get 2 working biros or a pencil so that if something goes wrong, you've still got them. If you're using a pencil, bring an eraser. These all sound like little things, but just by being organised, that will actually help you feel calmer as well. And then you can just focus on doing the test and not about having all of the things that you need. Okay, next tip, read the entire test before you begin. Now, if you're doing an exam, often there's reading time where you're not allowed to write. There's a very good reason for that. It's because I feel like you definitely do better if you read the entire test first. It gives you an idea of what you're about to get yourself into. And you can start to think about how you might approach questions before actually committing anything to paper. And this tip is relevant to the next tip as well, which is that you shouldn't necessarily do the questions in order. What I suggest that you do is pick the questions that you can do easiest first. So do the ones that you definitely know how to do and do those first. and then work towards the questions that you find hardest. So this way you're getting some stuff out of the way early on that you know you can do, that'll build your confidence, and you've got those done, and then you've got as much time as you can for the harder questions. On a related note, make sure you use all of the time allowed. So if you've got an hour to do a test and it only takes you 30 minutes, there's lots of different things that you can do in the next 30 minutes. And that's related to my final tip. Check and recheck all of the little details. Particularly in maths tests, I find that people lose a lot of points because they, forget about a negative sign. They might, just multiply two fractions together and get a little tiny detail wrong. Go back over your test, check all of the details, double check every single calculation that you've done. If you've still got time, check it all again. Every little thing that you pick up is another point towards your overall grade. So it's all time well spent. Okay, and that's the end of my tips. Good luck, and I hope that was helpful.